Hello everyone, Time to Grind here, and today I wanted to talk about PONG Quest. And PONG Quest really piqued my interest when I first saw the trailer for it. It looked like it was taking the classic gameplay of Pong and spicing it up with some dungeon crawling, and it was going to have a bunch of references to various classic Atari hits with a cool art style where all of the Pong paddles are the characters in the kingdom and you can customize it and all, and it looked really, really awesome. Unfortunately though, after playing it for several hours, the game falls just short. And you start off by doing a tutorial and customizing your character, and then you get into the game. And when you get in, you start going from room to room, kind of in a stereotypical dungeon crawly way. The level layout reminds me a lot of Binding of Isaac in terms of the rooms and how that kind of works. And whenever you touch an enemy or get close to them, you fight them. And when fighting them, it plays a lot like normal Pong, except the changes that PONG Quest brings. And so overall, you and your opponent have health bars, and every time you hit the ball with your paddle, you actually lose 1 health. And if you miss the ball completely, you lose a lot more health, obviously. And what's cool is whenever you get down to 1 health, if you just hit the ball with the paddle, you don't actually lose that 1 health. So in order to actually die, you have to miss the ball, which is nice. But the bigger main change to the game is these new power-ups called balls. And so you can find more balls, and every time you use one it uses up, so they're not like infinite, but you can find more by killing enemies or buying them in shops, or sometimes they pop up in match if you get the ball to hit it. And they are, there's a ton of them, and they do a bunch of different things. They can make the ball go faster, they can make the enemy paddle smaller, they can kind of make the ball invisible for a little bit so it's harder to hit. They can do really quirky things like summoning entire barriers, or making like whirlpools that completely change like the way the game, the ball is going. There's even some super cool ones that like start an entire kind of like centipede game to help block the ball. And overall, these power-ups and just the general health, mechanics in this new Pong are really, really cool, and it makes for a very promising type of gameplay. The part where the game kind of falls short, in my opinion, is how the game is presented to you. So you're going from room to room, and like I said, if you touch or get close to an enemy, you have to fight them, and if you kill them, they normally drop the balls they had and some money, and you normally get some XP as well. But the game almost seems like it's trying to be a roguelite in a sense, and it seems like it could be a pretty interesting and promising roguelite, but instead it presents it as like a story mode. So when you die, you keep your level, you keep all of the balls on you, you keep whatever progress, in terms of what floor you were on. The only thing that really gets reset is the progress of the specific floor you are in, but overall that's it. So what ends up happening is if you actually want to progress at like a decent pace, your best bet is to just skip past every single enemy you can, and the game just lets you do this. For the first like 3 floors of each area, there isn't any boss fights, so you can just beat each floor in about a minute. And the game eventually starts to be honestly such a slog, because it keeps giving the enemies more and more health, so they take longer and longer to kill, and you're not doing any extra damage unless you get some cool balls like the curse ones that have a chance of doing a lot of damage to them. But even then, they're limited time use ones, so you don't want to actually fight anyone, because then you're going to have to use those. So later in the game, each encounter can take up to 2 or 3 minutes, especially if they get lucky enough to get a healing item like one of the potion balls. And it takes so long to even beat a single enemy. And they're spamming, they're putting like 2 or 3 enemies in each room, and you got to look through like 15 different rooms. And occasionally the room will lock you in until you kill all the enemies. And on top of that, when you get to the final floor, so I think it's like floor 4, you eventually have to find a boss key to open up the boss room. But that only really requires you to technically fight 1 enemy, because 1 enemy will have like a key attached to them, and if you kill them, you get the key, you can open up the boss chest will give you the boss key, and then you can go fight the boss. So even then, if you manage to avoid every enemy, you only have to fight 1 enemy and then the boss. And the boss fights are honestly one of the best parts about this game. I can't complain about them at all. They are the things that actually resemble the kind of old Atari games the most. And so one of the bosses had this whole centipede vibe, and it had special centipede balls, and it was even kind of already when you first start off, there were all these mushrooms everywhere, and it was really, really cool. It reminded me of Centipede. And then there was another boss like that resembled Asteroid and one that was like Brick Breaker. And these are the cool part about the game. This is kind of where it's taking the old Atari vibe the most. But the problem is there's not that many bosses in this game. Each floor doesn't have a boss. It's only the last floor of each area. And in order to get to them, you have to spend, if you weren't going to just skip past all the enemies, like 2 hours getting to each one. And I mean, that's supposedly supposed to be the main point of the game. On top of that, mixed in with the combat, there's also these awful excuses of mini games that are supposedly supposed to, maybe help give you a little bit more variety. And the puzzles are also supposed to loosely resemble some of their old games, but it's just things like, oh, we're going to have all the lights off, and you have to press all of the light tiles in enough time, and then you just get a little bit more XP, a little bit more money, and some balls that you probably won't even pick up because your inventory is full. And, I think the worst excuse for one that was supposed to be like a reference to an old Atari game was it was like a puzzle where you have to, press on a tile and it will change not only that tile if it's on or off, but it'll put like a kind of a pattern of it. And it's just the patterns are like the Tetris blocks. But other than that, if they weren't that specific pattern, it would have nothing to do with Tetris. And whenever you level up with the XP system, you get the option of 3 different upgrades. And they can range from anything from like boring just health or inventory space upgrades to really cool passives that like make the AI dumber or slower or make them take more damage when they block a ball with the paddle. And honestly, this game would have been infinitely better if it had just been a roguelite. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a fan of roguelites. If the game actually had you leveling up faster and when you died you lost all the levels and stuff like that, and had you find cool items and get you as far as you can while unlocking new cool stuff in kind of a roguelite progression way, that I could see it being cool. But as it is right now, there is no incentive to fight the enemies, the main part of the game that this has. Another idea would be kind of like a boss rush game, if it was sort of like Cuphead, where you kept on fighting different enemies that had a lot of health and, they were actually hard games, but they all resemble different games, like the, Brick Breaker one, or the, Centipede one, or the Asteroid one. If it was just like a boss rush and they spent all that time, but instead it just feels like there's these really cool gameplay concept that they created, and there's this really cool concept of having these bosses resemble Atari fights, and they just threw in a bunch of stuff that to me feels like filler, that you can just skip past all of it and there is no incentive, nor do you want to, play those normal encounters. And so you can also, the additional game modes, you can play the main game locally or online, so the local part is pretty cool. However, you can't actually really play online unless you have a friend, because nobody is playing it right now. And overall, I can't help but be disappointed from this game. I mean, like I said, the core gameplay is really, really cool. The boss fights with the old Atari spins are really, really cool. But just how it presents those to you, kind of in what genre and the pacing in which it, presents it to you is just so disappointing. So if you actually have a friend or, some friends that want to play this cool, unique new Pong, I would say it's probably worth it. Maybe get it when it's on sale, but I could find some worth to it. But if you have no friends that want to play this game with you, online isn't going to help you because no one's playing it, and just the main game mode doesn't do it for me, honestly. And I'm so disappointed because this was a game that I honestly was pretty excited for, and I couldn't tell you why. But I just love things. I love things that like take an old like game and kind of like try to like modernize it, or do something with it for the modern era. Because you can't just remaster Pong. Pong is just Pong. So you got to do something to make it awesome. And it feels like they had some cool concepts, they just didn't know how to execute it very well. So I would love to see this game get like a roguelite update mode, or, a boss rush mode or something, because I could see that end up being a ton of fun. But as it stands right now, I definitely would not recommend getting it, unfortunately. But from what you've seen so far, and if you've played this game, definitely let me know in the comments down below what your guys' thoughts on it are. I love talking with you guys. Also, if you have any other recommendations for games that are coming out that you want me to check out, always let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, then consider leaving a like down below and subscribing to see more content. New videos come out about twice a week. On top of that, if you just can't get enough of me, We have a podcast media crash. The last episode, we talked about the young adult genre on there, so definitely feel free to check that out. But if you guys are having a great day today, I hope you continue having a great day. If you guys aren't having a great day, I hope you guys start having a great day. But either way, guys, I hope you guys have a great rest of the day. See you guys next time.